Hello, I am Ida B. Wells. I was born after the Emancipation Proclamation was given in Holly Springs, Mississippi. My parents had been slaves, but I was born free. As I got older, I sadly lost my parents to an epidemic of yellow fever along with my baby brother. I was about 14 and I was determined that my brothers and sisters, who were survivors, were not going to be taken away from us. I became a teacher, and while I taught during the day, one of my aunts took care of my siblings in the evening. I was not going to let my family be broken apart. We moved to Memphis, and I continued teaching, and then we moved on to Chicago, where I met my husband, an attorney named Ferdinand. He had 2 children by marriage before, and together we had 4. In the midst of my teaching and raising my children, I was very determined to bring to light all of the struggles that my people were facing with lynching and social injustice. I began writing and printing pamphlets and newsletters. Many people didn't take too kind to that, and some even came into my office and destroyed all of my equipment. But I was not going to let that stop me. I would even take my baby with me on some of my different assignments and different obligations. Susan B. Anthony once thought that I was too distracted and was torn between my family and my work. I suppose she would think so, seeing as how she was never married or had children. But I was able to balance it. I had the support and love of my husband, and I had the passion to tell these stories. There was one in particular of a young man who was just playing marbles with some of his friends at the local grocery store. The white owner of the grocery store across the street from the black-owned grocery store was none too pleased that the black grocery store was there and called the police. The young men left, but he found out where the ringleader, as he called them, lived. And in the middle of the night, the young man was taken and he was lynched. And so I wrote about it, and I was determined that it was not going to be said that the men in our community were nothing but vagabonds and criminals. They had the right to live their lives. As time went on and people became more aware that I was going to write the truth, I got involved in my local community, got involved on the national level. I was even involved in the original bringing about of the NAACP. Though if you look for the original manifesto, you are likely not to see my name on it. You see, while I had the support of Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington both thought I was too radical. And even Du Bois was the one who, while he claimed I chose not to have my name listed in the manifesto for the NAACP, that is not true. My radicalness helped inspire a nation, helped inspire women to believe that they had the right to vote. I was very involved in the suffragist movement, though they tried to keep us hidden in the back because some were fearful that adding the black cause to the women's cause would diminish theirs. But I was a firm believer that it was important for all of our causes to unite together. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here with Shemika Renee, and she just is doing a historical performance for us of Ida B. Wells. Hi, Shemika. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about the character that you've just portrayed?
Yes, Ida B. Wells was an activist and a journalist who was very passionate about telling the truth about the plight of African Americans and how poorly they were treated, and bringing that information to light, because oftentimes they were portrayed as villains, as thieves, as no good murderers. And she was trying to humanize the African Americans in the community and let people know that they were real people and not the caricature that had been portrayed by the mainstream media in that era.
When you pick a character to do a performance about, how do you go about researching that person?
Sometimes I'm inspired by the clothing of the era. I am very interested and intrigued by the fashion of eras past. Sometimes the historical figure has an element of their life that I can identify with. Ida B. Wells was an educator and a writer, and she was also a wife and a mother. And often in my various careers, I've had to juggle motherhood as well as my career. So in that vein, I identified with her, and knowing and learning that she was instrumental in the creation of the NAACP and some of the hidden history about it made me very interested and excited, because I never learned that about her in school. If I learned about her at all, it was mainly that she was a journalist, but she was so much more than a journalist.
I know you go to schools to perform during the year. I know you do Facebook during the year, especially in February during Black History Month. I have seen some of your wonderful pictures on Facebook, and you've given us links to find out about your characters. So where can people go to see you live over the next few months or a year? If you could share that with us, we would love to come see you.
Well, if there are people who are interested in me performing at their school or church or within their organization, they can reach me on Facebook under Shemika Renee. I will be performing my one-woman show, Miss Story's Living History, at the Port Tobacco Players.
Do you have a time and date for that performance?
Yes, it is scheduled for the end of March 2024. So it will be, I believe the dates are March 21st and 22nd. It will be Palm Sunday weekend, but not on that Sunday.
Excellent. So they will be able to get tickets through the Port Tobacco Players.
Yes, that information will be forthcoming on their website, and you can also find information on their Facebook page.
And I'm sure that next February we'll be seeing lots of new characters for us to learn about.
Yes, I've been doing it for a couple of years, where I will post a photo of the historical figure, and then next to that photo I take a picture of myself portraying that historical figure, along with a few interesting tidbits and then a link to their information. And I try to change it up each year. I've got a number of interested parties who enjoy looking each year, and I try to present historical figures that they haven't heard about or that are not often highlighted in schools.
Well, I have to tell you, I truly appreciate it. I've learned a great deal from you in your performances as well as your Facebook comments, and I thank you from the Charles County Arts Alliance for agreeing to sit down with us and to share your talent with us.
Thank you so much for having me.